Hey Cheyenne East. This will be a quick video aimed at helping you understand our Dropbox, and for those of you who have never used our Dropbox before, how it works, what's in it, and also, very importantly, the rules of using the Dropbox. So the very first thing that you need to do in order to effectively utilize our Dropbox, which is the online cloud storage system for all of our arguments, you have to go set up an account at Dropbox.com. You can see the basic Dropbox.com URL up there. Then, once you create an account, you'll be able to sign in. If you ever need help creating an account, please let me know. So we're going to sign in and get going. Now, while it's thinking, once you create an account at Dropbox.com, you are not going to see everything that I am seeing here on my screen because this is my account and I'm going to have access to more items just because I've been around longer than you have. Instead, what's going to happen is you're going to get an invitation to this year's folder within our Dropbox, which is called the Water Protection folder. You'll get an invitation. You'll click on that invitation, you'll create an account, and I will accept and allow you to use that folder, meaning you'll have access to all of the Word documents where we store our evidence and our arguments. So when you get in and log into Dropbox, you will see the Water Protection folder. To access it, scroll over to it and click it. Now here in the main body are all of the folders that you should care about. Don't worry about the stuff on the right. Don't worry about the stuff on the left. It's all the stuff in the middle that you should care about. We're going to walk through what's in each of these folders. The titles, for most of them, are pretty self-explanatory. The very first one, Affirmative Files, is where we store all of our varsity affirmative materials. Click into that. And there you go. You'll see our Water Tech Affirmative, a folder for 2AC answers. We're going to go back. Camp Files. This is a folder where evidence that members of our debate team cut while attending a debate camp, that's where they store those. Case Negatives. This is the folder, if you click in, where we have negative arguments related to specific affirmatives. We have a Counterplans folder. That stores our counterplans. Disadvantages stores our disadvantages. K-Answers. For those of you new to debate, you may wonder, what on earth is that? This refers to affirmative responses to critiques. If you have watched the critiques video or you're a varsity debater, you'll know exactly what those are. This next folder, if you're new to the team, very, very important. So if you're a novice, this is where you're going to live. In here are all of the novice files. So we have our Fracking 1AC, that's the affirmative case we're reading. We have already a few pre-written second affirmative constructive arguments. We have our negative for fracking. We have our lead novice neg. That means that's refers to arguments against the AFs related to reducing lead in our water infrastructure. And then we have down here a list of the novice case areas. These are all Word documents. So if you wanted to see one, let's look at the novice case areas. I'd click on that. It will open up a second window, and it displays the Word document. Very simple. Get out of that. We'll go back. Other teams' evidence. This folder is where we will save the evidence from other teams when they flash it to us. There's nothing against the rules by saving other teams' evidence. We have the right to look at it, and if they give it to us in an electronic format, we can save it and look at it, research it, and write arguments to it at a later date. This next folder, if you're new to the team or even if you're old to the team, very important folder. We'll click into it. This has a whole bunch of various resources and materials to help you get better at debate. So these first few are documents about how to execute arguments, some helpful videos you can go watch on debate. There's if you want to flow on your computer, there's an electronic flow template. There are rules of evidence here. So if we were to click on this PDF, it's going to bring it up. These are the actual rules for the National Speech and Debate Association about how to cite and read evidence. So if you want a refresher on that. If you're learning how to flow, this next one can help you. This is some shorthand that's been put together that you can use to write less as you're flowing. Some more flow templates. There's some other things that various debaters have put in over the years, like dadisms that you can ignore. But here is a very, very important resource for you, and that is the Policy Debate Guide resource. This is a document that contains all the explanation, tips, and tricks for the Cheyenne East Debate Program. It is well worth your time and effort to read it. We'll cover a lot of this stuff in practice, but here's something you can constantly refer to, even in rounds, to help you out. So lots of important things in that folder. Rules and rule blocks, you can skip over that for now. That'll only be important much later in the year. Theory and framework. If you're new to the program, don't worry about that folder so much. We'll come back to that. But it contains our theory arguments and how to answer people's framework contentions. And then last folder in here is where we store our topicality arguments. The novices won't have to worry about that until much later on in the year, but varsity, that's where you find it. So very, very simple use of this, and the navigation is pretty easy. Now, some of you may want to add arguments to the Dropbox, add files, as we call them. That's great. In order to do that, you select the folder that you want them to be in. So let's say you wanted to upload something to the affirmative folder. You'd click Upload. You'd select the document on wherever it's stored on your computer, and then you'd hit Upload, and it would put it in this folder. If you ever need assistance on how to do that, please let me know. Now, let's talk about some very, very important rules related to the Dropbox. First rule of the Dropbox: never, ever delete anything from the Dropbox. Because this is a shared space, if one person deletes a document, it deletes it for everybody. We don't want to ever have that happen. Now, I back this up on occasion, but the best way to prevent us from losing evidence and arguments is to never, ever delete items from the Dropbox. Second part of that rule: never move stuff around in the Dropbox unless you have received permission from me. Sometimes we want to reorganize because things get a little jumbled. That's fine, but let's make sure we're on the same page where that stuff is going to be moved so that it's easy for everyone who uses this Dropbox to understand. Again, the idea here, it's a shared space, so we need to be respectful of that shared space. Third thing, the Dropbox, this particular Dropbox, is just for the Cheyenne East Policy Debate Program. You may want to use Dropbox for other events or other activities, and that's wonderful. It's a great tool. But please limit your use of this particular folder in your Dropbox to just Cheyenne East Policy Debate. In rounds, there's a limited amount of time, and if we have material that doesn't belong in here, it may make it more difficult for people to find items. Now, those are simple rules. Follow them, and we're going to have a great time and be very effective in using the Dropbox.